want to start with Travis Steele, Jeff. He found out today, after winning a game in the NIT with his season still alive, that he is not going to be returning as the head coach at Xavier. My understanding is that this was something of a surprise. What can you tell me about Travis Steele and the Xavier job?
It was, I mean, anytime you're fired when you're still alive in the NIT or NCAA tournament, it's obviously going to be a surprise. Athletic director Greg Christopher made the move. They had a couple meetings today. It was trending in that direction, and he pulled the plug on Travis Steele after, 4 years and no NCAA tournaments. I get it. Listen, if you want to do it, do it. But don't do it during the NIT tournament. Do it either before it starts or wait till it's over. You got to wonder, honestly, if at this point, Greg Christopher felt like, hey, I don't want to wait much longer. I got some guys in mind. I'm going to make the move. But he should have done it before the NIT ever started. Now, there was a kid on in the game last night, Ben Stanley, who doesn't play a whole heck of a lot, from Hampton, transferred in from Hampton, that kind of caused a little bit of a stir on the bench last night. But I don't think that had anything to do with it. Again, I don't get it if I'm Greg Christopher, but what I will say is what I do get, go after Sean Miller. Go after the field. I don't want to lose Sean Miller from the field of 68. He's been awesome this year. But I know he likes coaching more than he likes being, talking to Rob Doster. So I'd like to see Sean get on his feet again. And I think going back to Xavier is a no-brainer if I'm Greg Christopher.
I'll tell you this. If we put him on every night with John Fanta, we might be able to keep him.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I just – the timing sucks. And doing it in the while the season is still going on, I think is wrong. It's unfair to the kids that are going to have to deal with this. Like, they still have to go play games, and then their coach just got fired after a win. That's not the right way to do things. But I don't necessarily think that this should have been all that much of a surprise. Like, this is the third straight year they've had a really bad end of the season. They have not made it back to the tournament since Travis Steele was the head coach. This was supposed to be the year where they found a way to get it done. You got Paul Scruggs back for a surprise year, brought in Jack Nungy, you got Zach Fremantle. He kind of built this team. So I like Travis. I don't like seeing guys lose their jobs, but I was not necessarily surprised to see.
Well, at Xavier, listen, you can't go 0 for 4 at Xavier.
No.
As much as we all love Travis and you don't want anybody to lose their job, Xavier is just a job that has been so successful no matter who's come through there, right? Whether it's Thad Matta, Sean Miller, Chris Mack, they've had so much success. So the expectations right now at Xavier that you go to the tournament every single year, and that's probably unfair, but you probably need to go more than you need to go once in 4 years at the very least.
Yeah. So the other news that came out today, Magic Johnson broke the news. Magic Johnson scooped Jeff Goodman. He said, congratulations to my friend Kenny Payne on getting the job as the head coach of the Louisville Cardinals. Jeff, can you confirm college basketball insider Magic Johnson's report that Kenny Payne is going to be the next head coach of the Louisville Cardinals?
Irvin, what are you doing? Stay in your lane, Irvin. I mean, come on. You're going to be a newsbreaker. I got to compete with Magic. I'm not winning that battle. Let's face it. But listen, this was something that I felt like was going to happen all along. Like, this job opened, and immediately I'm looking at it objectively and saying, all right, they don't have an AD. They have an interim AD. They don't have a president. They've still got NCAA violations kind of hanging over their head in investigation. They're waiting for their penalties. They could get another year postseason ban. No sitting head coach in their right mind who loves their job and has a good high major job is going to go to that type of situation. They tried Scott Drew. They tried Mick Cronin. They tried other guys, and all of them respectfully declined because, again, you're if you're in a good spot and and Mike can talk to this. I don't want you to talk about jobs, Mike, but I want you to talk about how important it is to know your administration and be happy working for that administration.
Yeah, I think it's the most important part of this entire equation is just the alignment that you can have up and down, right?
Yeah.
Right. Your staff, your assistants, your GAs, your players, right? But then also, right, who's the basketball, not just who's the AD, right? Because that's important, but who's
in charge of the sport?
Who's the sport administrator for you? Who are you going to when somebody needs to update the graphics? Because that's probably not your AD, right? Who need to make sure you're getting your private plane to go to Augusta, to Atlanta in July. Like those relationships, that communication was kind of begs the question, who's making a hire right now? And I'm obviously, if it's true and I'm happy for Kenny. I've known him for a long time. He's been great to me. Obviously well respected in our industry, has been a dynamic person in the business for a long time, recruited a lot of high level dudes for Cal.
And a great guy, Mike.
And at Oregon, no doubt.
Just a good, low-key, no-ego person, period.
And I'll say this. We didn't really ever, other than Tyrese Maxey, we didn't really go head-to-head recruiting against them much. That's just not – those aren't the type of guys we've recruited a lot. But I know a lot of kids who went there while he was there, and those kids talk about his input and relationship that they had with him as much as anything as to being why it was such a great place to be while he was there. And so I got no doubt he'll be able to continue that as a head coach. He'll get a great staff. And, obviously it's a high level job, and nobody knows it as well as he does, though. He'll do a good job at it.
The one thing that I do think is good about this, and we have seen this over the course of the last couple cycles, that there have been more minority assistant coaches getting their first head coaching job at bigger jobs. And that's something that you have obviously had experience with. And I think I'm glad to see it, right? Because I wrote a story about this, and we've talked about this before, Mike, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to be able to get those opportunities. And even if it's a situation where it came at the result of having sanctions potentially hanging over the head of the program or not knowing who you're going to work for, I do think that Kenny getting this chance is a good thing overall. And I hope he does well.
Yeah, he will. And there's no doubt. I mean, I'm a living example here of a guy who was, and I'll be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if either one of you were critical to hire.
Never, Mike. I would never be critical of any hire. Come on,
but the truth is, for a Big 12's program, I was a risk. I just happened to be at a place where the AD was comfortable taking that risk on and having enough courage to say, I'm going to help try to make sure we provide the resources to give this guy a chance to be successful. And then it's on me to do the job well or not. And if I didn't, then obviously, I wouldn't be here in just having finished year 5. So I'm thankful to the AD I had. I'm thankful to the AD that I have now because they really believed in me and gave me an opportunity. But there's a lot of qualified Black coaches out there who just, for whatever reason, and maybe some of them haven't really pursued opportunities to the level that they want. But I know that they're guys, and I'm going to name a few that I know that are qualified. If you don't mind, if I can give some plugs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
do it.
But Carlin Hartman, who's a dear friend of mine,
who's awesome,
assistant coach at UNLV. Alvin Brooks III. And Jerome Tang's great. His name's out there already. There's a lot of people stumping for him. But Alvin Brooks III at Baylor is every bit ready to be a head coach. He grew up around this game. His dad's the head coach at Lamar now, from Houston, done a great job recruiting in the state of Texas, but also in Florida. I think he recruited Keontae George, yep. Kendall Brown. Like those guys have done a great job. Sadie Washington, who's at Michigan. There's a reason he was kept on, right? He's still finding a way to have success. Kamani was in the spotlight a couple of weeks ago. I think he's another guy. Kamani Young at UConn. Chin Coleman.
Let's keep Kamani there for let's get through the next 3 weeks with Kamani at UConn. All right, we need UConn making a run here. I'm a UConn fan, Mike. Let's keep Kamani there for at least 3 more weeks. All right, can we do that?
Yeah, no doubt. I think that's fine. But his opportunity is going to be there, and he's going to be ready. He obviously showed he could do a little bit of everything. He took over a game in the middle of a game now where there was a lot going on, and he didn't flinch, and his guys responded because they trust him. But another one is Chin Coleman, who's at Kentucky now, was at Illinois with Brad for a couple of years, spent some time at I think Illinois, Chicago, maybe UIC.
Yes, that's right.
And then Mike Jones at Virginia Tech, who's been a head coach at the high school level, been around elite players for a long time. He's at Virginia Tech with a really good friend of mine, Mike Young. So there's a lot, man. I just named 5 or 6, but there are a lot of guys who are prepared and I think would do well if ADs would just, allow them to come sit down and talk to them.
Yep. Mike, we got about a minute here, but give me the one piece of advice that you would give to any assistant that is getting their first big time head coaching gig.
Hire great staff. Hire great staff.
So simple.
I'll say this. Well, yes, it sounds so simple.
Right.
Recruiting is obviously the most important thing you do. You got to have great players. But if you don't have a great staff, it makes that part even harder. So take your time, get the best staff that you're capable of having, and then go to war with them every day.